The massive hospital ship drifted quietly through the darkness of space, its white hull gleaming under distant starlight. Red crosses marked its sides, each one a kilometer wide, and illuminated brightly enough to be seen from neighboring systems. The UNHS Mercy's light was humanity's pride, not because it carried weapons or showed power, but because it helped anyone in need, regardless of their species or origin. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge, watching as his medical staff treated patients from 12 different species. Through the large observation windows, he could see emergency shuttles arriving with more wounded from a nearby mining colony. A solar flare had caught them off guard, and the Mercy's light was the only hospital ship within range. "Status report," he called out, his voice calm but firm. "We're at 93% capacity, sir," replied the young officer at operations. "Dr. Reed says we can make room for 30 more critical patients if we convert the backup storage bay." Walker nodded, proud of his crew's dedication. 5,000 patients already filled the ship's medical bays, and still, they found ways to help more. The ship's massive engines hummed quietly, keeping them in a stable orbit at the edge of human space. The first warning came from the sensor station. "Sir, picking up multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Configuration unknown." Walker turned to face the tactical display. Red dots appeared, forming a pattern that made his stomach sink. "Send standard greetings on all frequencies. Remind them we're a medical vessel under galactic protection laws." Seconds ticked by. The unknown ships moved closer, spreading out in an attack formation that every military veteran would recognize. Walker had served in the defense fleet before requesting transfer to medical service. He knew what was coming. "No response to hails, sir. They're charging weapons." Walker's fingers flew across his command console. "All hands, Emergency Protocol 7. Begin patient evacuation to the survival pods." "This is not a drill." His voice remained steady, years of training kicking in. "Bring shields to full power. Continue broadcasting our status as a medical vessel." The first shot streaked across space, a brilliant beam of energy that struck the Mercy's light's shields. The massive ship shuddered. More shots followed, systematic and precise. "Shields at 60%. The tactical officer's voice cracked with disbelief. "Sir, they're targeting our medical bays." Walker's jaw tightened. "Divert all power to shields protecting the patient sectors. Get me a visual on the attacking ships." The main screen lit up, showing sleek warships painted in dark purple and black. Each one bore the mark of the Stellar Dominion, a species known for their arrogance, but never before for such a direct violation of galactic law. "Sir, Dr. Reed reports evacuation of critical care has begun. Estimated 20 minutes to get the most vulnerable patients to survival pods." Another hit rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console as systems began to fail. Walker knew 20 minutes was too long, but he had to try. "Reroute power from propulsion. Give me everything we've got in the shields." He opened a ship-wide channel. "All non-medical personnel to evacuation stations. Medical staff, continue patient evacuation. Security teams, assist with moving critical patients." The bridge crew worked frantically, trying to buy time with their dying ship. Through the chaos, Walker noticed something odd. The attackers were being methodical, almost experimental in their attack pattern. They were testing responses, studying how the hospital ship handled damage. "Sir." The sensor officer's shout carried over the noise of failing systems. "They're targeting the main reactor." Walker reached for the emergency broadcast button. His last act would give Earth a chance to respond. "This is Captain James Walker of the UNHS Mercy's Light. We are under attack by Stellar Dominion forces. They are intentionally targeting patient areas. 5,000 civilian patients on board. We." The blast cut through the weakened shields, striking the reactor core. Walker's final message transmitted just before the explosion began. His last thought was of the patients and crew, hoping the evacuation pods would carry enough of them to safety. The Mercy's light died as it had lived, trying to protect those who needed help most. Its destruction lit up space like a newborn star, a beacon that would soon draw humanity's full attention and fury to this distant corner of the galaxy. Admiral Mary Stone stood frozen in Earth Defense Command's main control room. The massive screen before her showed the final transmission from the Mercy's light playing on repeat. Each time, she watched the hospital ship break apart, its white hull splitting open like a broken egg. The red crosses that marked it as a medical vessel glowed until the very end. The room was silent except for the soft beeping of computers. Officers who had seen countless battles had tears in their eyes. Some had friends or family aboard that ship. All of them knew that 5,000 patients, some of the most vulnerable beings in the galaxy, had been aboard. "Play it again," Stone ordered, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Focus on the attacking ships." The footage restarted. This time, technical systems analyzed every frame. The attackers' ships were clear now, their dark purple hulls and black markings standing out against the stars. There was no mistake about their identity. Stellar Dominion warships, the analyst confirmed. "We count 6 heavy cruisers." They knew exactly what they were attacking. The hospital ship's markings were visible from 2 light years away. Stone's hands gripped the command rail until her knuckles turned white. "Survival pod beacons. We're picking up signals. Admiral, search and rescue ships are already moving in. Early estimates suggest some escape pods made it out before the final explosion." The emergency channel lit up. The United Earth Council was calling an immediate session. Stone watched as faces appeared on screens around the room. Political leaders, military commanders, and civilian administrators from every corner of human space. Many had been sleeping. None of them looked tired now. The council leader spoke first. "Admiral Stone, verify what we're seeing. Was this an authorized attack?" "No, sir." The Mercy's light was performing authorized medical evacuations from the mining colony hit by solar flares. They were exactly where they were supposed to be, doing exactly what they were supposed to do. Another council member's voice shook with emotion. "There were children aboard that ship. We had infants in critical care being treated for radiation exposure." Stone nodded slowly. The attack was deliberate. The Dominion ships targeted medical bays first, then systematically destroyed the ship's ability to evacuate. This wasn't a mistake or a misidentification. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. For the first time in human history, representatives from every Earth nation and colony spoke as one. They all wanted the same thing. "Admiral Stone," the council leader's voice cut through the noise. "A vote is required. The motion is to activate Protocol 7. Full military response. All in favor." The vote was instant and unanimous. Stone felt the weight of history as she watched green lights flash across every council member's image. Humanity had never been so united. "Admiral Stone, you have full authority. All military resources are at your disposal. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. What are your orders?" Stone turned to face the room full of officers awaiting her command. Her voice was calm, but everyone heard the steel beneath it. "Send word to every human ship in space. All civilian vessels are to head to the nearest safe port. All military ships, including reserves, are to converge on Rally Point Omega. Wake up every retired officer who can still serve. Open the sealed shipyards." She looked back at the frozen image of the dying hospital ship. "The Stellar Dominion thinks they know humanity's strength because they've seen our peaceful ships, our medical vessels, our trading fleets. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Around Earth, massive doors began to open in the sides of mountains and under oceans. Ships that had been hidden for decades powered up their engines. Reserve fleets that had been disguised as mining operations began dropping their covers. "And get me everything we have on their leadership," Stone added. "They wanted to test our resolve." "Fine. Let's show them exactly how humanity responds when someone crosses the line." The largest fleet Earth had ever assembled was awakening. The Stellar Dominion had thought they were poking the sleeping bear, They were about to discover they had awakened something far more dangerous. Humanity's full military might, backed by the rage of a unified species. The old shipyards of Mars burst into life for the first time in 30 years. Huge lights turned night into day as massive doors slid open in the red cliffs. Workers poured in by the thousands, their boots clicking on metal walkways as they rushed to their stations. Deep inside the mountain, ships that had been sleeping for decades waited for their crews. Tom Miller walked through the rows of warships, checking each one off his list. He had maintained these ships alone for 20 years, keeping them ready for a day he hoped would never come. Now that day had arrived, and he wasn't alone anymore. "How many can we launch today?" asked the young officer following him. 50 heavy cruisers are ready now," Tom replied, his hand touching the cold metal of the nearest ship. "Another 100 will be ready by tomorrow." These old girls just needed someone to wake them up. Above Mars, similar scenes played out across the solar system. Jupiter's hidden bases released swarms of fighter craft. Saturn's rings parted to reveal weapon platforms that had been disguised as chunks of ice. Even peaceful Mercury showed its teeth as manufacturing plants that had been building farm equipment transformed overnight into ammunition factories. On Earth, Admiral Stone stood in the middle of Fleet Command, watching the massive screens that covered every wall. Green dots appeared everywhere, showing ships responding to the call. Retired captains and crews reported in from every corner of human space. Many had been living quiet lives as farmers, teachers, or traders. Now they put on their old uniforms and headed to the nearest military port. "Status report," Stone called out. 700 ships already at Rally Point Omega, an officer responded. Another 1,000 expected within 48 hours. The hidden fleet from Europa just checked in. They're bringing 300 more. Stone nodded, but her eyes were fixed on a different screen. It showed the faces of 6 survivors from the hospital ship, recovered by the first rescue ships to reach the scene. Their stories had spread across human space, turning sorrow into cold anger. "The medical ships, are they secure?" "Yes, Admiral. Every hospital ship has been given a destroyer escort. We're not losing another one." A new alert flashed on the main screen. Stone turned to face it, and a small smile crossed her face. "Well, well, look who else decided to join us." The image showed a massive ship, nearly twice the size of a normal carrier, dropping its camouflage field near Pluto. Its hull was marked with the symbols of Earth's most advanced research division. "The Thunder Child reporting in," a voice announced over the command channel. "Admiral, we finished testing the new shield technology. Request permission to join the fleet." "Granted," Stone replied. "Bring everything you've got. The Dominion wants to see our strength. Let's show them what 30 years of hidden research looks like." In orbit around Earth, ships from every nation gathered. Chinese destroyers flew alongside American carriers. Russian battleships formed up with European cruisers. African defense platforms activated their engines for the first time, revealing that they could move and fight. The artificial separation between Earth's nations faded away, replaced by a single, unified human fleet. Down in the shipyards, Tom watched as the first wave of ships lifted off. Their engines burned bright against the Martian sky, and more followed every minute. Crews of young soldiers mixed with veterans, all of them learning to work together quickly. There was no time for long training. The fleet would train on the way to battle. "Send word to Admiral Stone," he said to his assistant. "The Mars division is awake and angry. We're coming to join the party." As the ships rose into space, their crews could see similar launches from bases all across the solar system. Humanity had hidden its true strength for generations, showing the galaxy only its peaceful face. Now the mask was coming off, and even their own people were surprised by what lay beneath. The Stellar Dominion had attacked a hospital ship to test humanity's strength. As the largest fleet in human history gathered for war, they were about to learn that some tests come with very painful lessons. Commander Lisa Hayes stood at the window of her scout ship, watching rescue pods flash their lights in the darkness of space. Each light meant someone had survived. Her crew had been searching the debris field of the Mercy's light for 6 hours, and they kept finding more survivors. Another pod located, called out her sensor operator. Life signs detected. 3 people inside. Lisa typed commands into her control panel. The ship's mechanical arms reached out gently, pulling the pod closer. Through the pod's small window, she saw 2 nurses holding a small alien child. All 3 were alive. Total count, she asked. 712 survivors found so far, her officer replied. Most of them are patients who were already in emergency pods for critical care. The medical staff. They put the patients in pods first. Lisa nodded silently. The rescue ships had found many pods with patients safely inside, while the medical staff who saved them didn't make it out themselves. Heroes, every one of them. The ship's computer beeped as it finished scanning another piece of the hospital ship's wreckage. This piece was different. It contained the main data core. Lisa ordered it brought aboard immediately. In the ship's lab, technicians worked quickly to recover data from the damaged systems. The core was badly burned, but its security recordings were still intact. Lisa watched as they played back the ship's final hours. "Look at this," one technician said, pointing to the screen. The Dominion ships. They weren't just attacking. They were running some kind of scan on the hospital ship, testing its responses. Lisa leaned closer. The tech was right. The attack pattern wasn't meant to destroy quickly. The Dominion ships had been gathering data, learning how the human ship would react. They wanted to see how we handle emergencies, she realized. They thought a hospital ship would show them our weakest points. A message flashed on her screen. Another pod had been found, this one containing Dr. Reed, the hospital ship's chief medical officer. He was hurt but alive, and he had something important to tell them. Lisa went to the medical bay where they had brought him. The doctor looked tired, but his eyes were clear and angry. "They contacted us before the attack," he said, his voice rough. "Claimed they were bringing wounded. But when I told them we had room for their patients, they laughed. Said they wanted to see how humans act under pressure. Called it a field test of our species." Lisa recorded everything while her anger grew. The Dominion hadn't just attacked. They had planned this carefully. They chose a hospital ship because they thought it would be weak. Her ship's sensors picked up something new. A small probe, hidden in the debris, was still sending data back to the Dominion. Lisa ordered it captured intact. Inside, they found proof that the Dominion had recorded everything. The attack, the rescue efforts, all of it. "They're still watching us," she said to her crew. "Still gathering data, but they're learning the wrong lessons." She sent a message to Admiral Stone, marked urgent. The survivors were safe, the evidence was clear, and now they knew the truth. The Dominion had planned this attack for months, thinking it would show them humanity's weakness. As Lisa watched more rescue ships arrive to help, she smiled grimly. The Dominion's test was about to backfire. They had attacked the one thing humans protected most, those who couldn't protect themselves, and in doing so, they had awakened something they never expected. "Prepare to jump to Rally Point Omega," she ordered her crew. "The fleet needs to see this evidence, and I want to be there when we show the Dominion what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." Her ship turned away from the debris field, carrying survivors and evidence that would help justify what was coming next. Behind them, the rescue work continued. Humanity would save everyone they could, and then they would make sure this never happened again. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Dominion space. At first, only 30 ships appeared, a small force that matched what the Dominion expected to see. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of her flagship, Thunderchild, watching the enemy fleet approach. The Dominion's response came quickly. 100 warships moved to block the human fleet's path. Their dark purple hulls seemed to swallow the starlight, and their weapons were already charged. "They're sending a message," reported the communications officer. Stone nodded. "Let's hear it." A voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect English with a tone of superiority. "This is High Commander Dax of the Stellar Dominion. Your presence here is noted. If you are seeking revenge for the hospital ship, be aware that we have 500 more warships waiting to teach humans their place in the galaxy." Stone smiled slightly. "Send our response. Audio only." She stepped forward and spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Mary Stone of the United Earth Fleet. You attacked a hospital ship. You killed doctors who were helping your own people. You murdered children in their beds. Surrender those responsible, or what happens next will be your fault." The Dominion commander laughed. "You threaten us? With 30 ships? Perhaps we should destroy another hospital ship to show you your weakness." Stone pressed a button on her command chair. "Actually, let me show you something interesting." All around the human fleet, space seemed to ripple. Massive ships appeared out of nowhere as their cloaking fields dropped. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships. Hundreds of them, then thousands. The Mars Division appeared on the left flank, their red-striped hulls gleaming. The Jupiter fleet materialized on the right, their massive carriers launching swarms of fighters. The enemy ships stopped moving. Stone imagined their crews staring at their sensors in disbelief as more human ships kept appearing. "Interesting fact about humans," Stone continued. "We don't show all our cards at once. What you've seen of Earth, our trading ships, our hospital ships, our peaceful stations, that's what we chose to show you. Now let me show you what we kept hidden." Behind her fleet, another wave of ships appeared. These were Earth's most advanced vessels, covered in technology the Dominion had never seen. The Thunderchild sensors showed enemy commanders frantically calling for reinforcements. "Your reinforcements are already busy," Stone told them. "Right now, human fleets are appearing at every Dominion military base in this sector. You wanted to test humanity's strength. Test is in progress." The Dominion commander's voice had lost its arrogance. This is impossible. Our intelligence said your fleet was a tenth this size. Your intelligence was exactly as complete as we wanted it to be." Stone's voice turned cold. "Last chance. Surrender those responsible for the hospital ship attack, or we show you exactly why humans spent 30 years hiding their real military power." On the tactical display, more Dominion ships were arriving. They formed up into attack formation, trying to look brave. But Stone could see their ships moving backward slowly, putting distance between themselves and the human fleet. "You have 10 minutes to decide," she told them. "Look at your sensors, count our ships, check their weapon readings. Then ask yourself, did you really want to learn humanity's true strength this way?" The bridge fell silent as they waited. Stone watched the enemy fleet, seeing confusion in their movements. They had expected to face a small, angry force they could easily destroy. Instead, they faced the largest fleet ever assembled, commanded by people who had spent decades preparing for exactly this moment. The Dominion had wanted to test humanity's resolve. As their commanders stared at sensors showing thousands of human warships where they'd expected to find 30, they realized too late that they had badly misunderstood the species they chose to provoke. Now they had 10 minutes to make the most important decision in their history: surrender the guilty and face justice, or learn exactly why humans had kept their true strength hidden for so long. The 10 minutes passed slowly. On the bridge of Thunderchild, Admiral Stone watched the Dominion ships move into attack positions. Their commander had made his choice. They would fight rather than surrender. "They're powering up weapons," reported the tactical officer. Stone nodded calmly. "Send the signal to all ships. Battle Plan Theta." Across the human fleet, crews moved to their stations. They had practiced this plan many times, but never with real targets. The Dominion ships fired first, sending bright beams of energy toward the human fleet. But the shots hit nothing. Every human ship moved exactly 3 seconds before the beams reached them, following a dance they had practiced for years. The Dominion's perfect formation suddenly looked clumsy and slow. "Launch fighters," Stone ordered. Hundreds of small ships poured out of the carriers. They moved in patterns that confused the enemy sensors, making it impossible to tell which were real and which were just holograms. The Dominion ships fired wildly, wasting energy on empty space. "They're using old tactics," Stone said to her bridge crew. "Everything they know about space combat, they learned from watching our trading ships defend against pirates. Show them how humans really fight." The Mars division moved first, their red-striped ships forming a perfect arrow. They cut through the enemy formation like a knife, their new shields absorbing every hit. Behind them came the Jupiter fleet, their heavy guns speaking for the first time in 30 years. "Broadcast on all frequencies," Stone commanded. "Let them hear what their test has brought them." The human ships attacked as one, using tactics from centuries of warfare on Earth. Some ships moved like ancient Roman legions, forming testudo formations that were impossible to break. Others used old naval tactics, crossing the enemy's T just like wooden ships had done on Earth's oceans. The Dominion's neat formations broke apart. Their commanders had never seen ships fight this way. They tried to retreat, but found themselves surrounded. The human fleet had split into smaller groups, each one fighting with different tactics that were impossible to counter all at once. On a hospital ship far behind the battle line, the survivors of Mercy's Light watched through long-range cameras. They saw humanity's response to the attack that had killed their friends. Dr. Reed stood among them, his hands clenched as he watched justice unfold. "Target their flagship," Stone ordered. "All ships, pattern Delta." The Thunderchild moved forward, leading a group of advanced ships. Their hulls glowed with strange energy as they activated technology the Dominion had never seen. The enemy flagship tried to run, but found itself caught in a web of gravitational fields. "Send them the pictures," Stone said quietly. "Show them why we're here." On every Dominion ship, screens lit up with images from the hospital ship attack. They saw doctors trying to save patients as their ship died. They watched nurses putting children into escape pods while staying behind themselves. They saw the true cost of their commander's test. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, the Dominion fleet was in ruins, not destroyed. Humans had been careful about that, but disabled. Thousands of escape pods launched from the damaged ships, carrying crews who had finally learned the truth about human warfare. Stone looked at the tactical display one last time. The Dominion's mighty fleet floated powerless, their weapons silent, their engines dead. Behind her, the human fleet stood undamaged, proving that 30 years of secret preparation had been worth every minute. "Send to all ships," she ordered. "Prepare boarding parties. Find the commanders responsible for the hospital ship attack. Show them the same mercy they showed our doctors and patients." The battle was over, but its message would echo through the galaxy forever. Never mistake humanity's kindness for weakness. Never assume that because humans prefer peace, they have forgotten war. And never, ever, attack a human hospital ship. 1 month after the battle, Admiral Stone walked through the halls of the new hospital ship. Its white walls gleamed under bright lights, and its corridors were wide enough for medical teams to move quickly. The name Mercy's Promise was painted proudly on its hull, right next to the Red Cross that marked it as a medical vessel. "The new shield system is installed," reported Tom Miller, who had left his shipyard to help build this vessel. "Nothing like what happened to the Mercy's Light will ever happen again." Stone nodded as she watched doctors and nurses prepare their stations. Many of them were survivors from the destroyed ship, ready to continue their work helping others. Their dedication made her proud to be human. In a nearby room, Dr. Reed was training new medical staff. He had survived both the attack and the following battle, and now he made sure everyone knew how to use the new emergency systems. The escape pods on this ship could launch faster, and each one had its own small engine. "The Dominion leaders are ready for trial," an aide reported, handing Stone a tablet. All 6 commanders who planned the hospital ship attack were found. Their own crews turned them in. The trial would be held on Earth, in front of judges from every spacefaring species. The evidence was clear. Commander Lisa Hayes had found it all in the wreckage of Mercy's light. The Dominion would face justice not just from humans, but from every race that believed in protecting the helpless. Stone walked to the observation deck and looked out at space. The fleet that had won the battle was now spread across the galaxy, watching for any other threats to medical ships. But they weren't hiding anymore. Human warships now flew openly, reminding everyone that kindness and strength could exist together. "Admiral," called a young officer, "the Dominion's new government is sending a message." After their defeat, the Dominion's people had removed their old leaders. The new ones wanted peace, and they proved it by sending their own hospital ships to help anyone in need, just like humans did. "They're asking to join the medical protection fleet," the officer continued. "They want to help guard hospital ships." Stone smiled. The lesson had been learned, but not the one the old Dominion leaders wanted. Instead of learning about human weakness, they had discovered human strength came from helping others. In the ship's memorial hall, pictures of the Mercy's Light's crew hung on the walls. Below them were the words, "They died saving others." But now there was a new message. Their sacrifice made the galaxy safer for everyone. "Launch countdown starting," announced the ship's captain. "All medical staff to stations." Stone watched as the Mercy's Promise prepared for its first mission. The ship would carry 1,000 patients, protected by the strongest shields humans could build. Around it flew escort ships from 12 different species, all of them working together to prevent another attack. "Message from Earth Command," said the communications officer. "The new galactic laws are approved. Any attack on a medical vessel is now a crime against all species. Every fleet in known space will respond." This was humanity's real victory. Not the battle they had won, but the peace they had built after it. The Dominion had wanted to test human strength, but they had found something more important: human determination to protect those who needed help. The Mercy's Promise moved gracefully away from Earth, its white hull shining in the sunlight. Inside, doctors and nurses prepared to help anyone who needed them, no matter what species they were. Outside, ships from a dozen worlds flew guard, making sure that this time, Mercy would be protected. Admiral Stone watched it leave, knowing that something good had come from tragedy. The galaxy had learned that humans would always defend their healers. And more importantly, they had learned that real strength wasn't about weapons or wars. It was about protecting those who helped others. The legacy of Mercy's light lived on, not just in memory, but in a new age of cooperation. Humanity had revealed its strength, but in the end, they had used that strength to build something better than revenge. A future where those who helped others would always be safe.